Happy Monday. Let's just first get everybody in the room. And then let's just find our way to a seat, something that feels comfortable and supportive. And so and so let's just find some nice fluid breaths here. Creating on the fluidity of the breath so that each inhale, each exhale is a nice little opportunity kind of transverse that wave of inhale and exhale. Think about tweaking and adjusting the position of your seat so that it is more supportive for you. We'll give ourselves just 60 more seconds to center and land here. Really fluid breath, following the path of the inhale and the exhale. Last 15 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, if the eyes are closed, let's let them open. Take your hands and place them on top of your legs, thighs, wherever you're most comfortable. Palms are down here and we're connected to our legs. And then we're going to use energy. We'll start in the left hand. So left hand energizing down. Turn your chin up to the right, like you're trying to look as far as you can in that area just behind you almost, right? Like trying to rotate the neck in a way where you can see as high and as far behind you as is possible. And then we'll relax back to neutral, let the blood flow resettle, and then pressure into that right hand. And we work to that other side. Again, as high and as far behind you as is possible. And then when you feel balanced, we'll come back to neutral. Let the chin tuck down to the sternum. Take the hands to like belly button height and interlace the fingers. And then push the elbows out, and you can use kind of the knuckles of the hands to catch as the elbows push towards the edges of the room. And then we'll relax back to neutral. Let's transition to hands and knees, tabletop. A nice solid base position here. Think about the strength that you can craft from this shape. And then once you set the spine to neutral, let's turn our gaze over our left shoulder. Relax back to neutral, and then over the right shoulder. Relax back to neutral. Drop your chin to your sternum, try to look between your legs, but don't let the belly drop here. So stay neutral in the spine. And then keep your spine neutral. Try to look towards that space in front of you. If possible, you can start to kind of barely angle the vision up, but don't cheat the belly down to make that happen. So we're staying really active here. It's very neck centric. Then we'll release the head back to neutral. Curl your toes, roll your seat, and find your way back into down dog. You get back into that down dog space. Try to play with the upper thoracic spine, cervical spine area, pressing into those hands to really strengthen that space. And as you strengthen, crafting some length, it's going to be a hard word night for me. And then we'll walk our way forward into fold. Finding your version of fold, keeping your toes nice and arched. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Think about the weight across the toe mounds here, and note if you're tending to roll towards that lateral edge, outer edge, or medial edge, inner edge. And then keeping that weight distribution balanced, or if your awareness to your sacrum, let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae, finding our way into mountain. Feet pointed straight forward, good strong glute engagement, good strong core engagement, elevated torso. Let's slide our fingers into an interlace so we end up with a nice solid connection there. And then just go middle of the sternum with the hand. So it's a little bit lower than we might naturally sit. And then we'll slide our right foot straight back into lunge. Keeping those hands right at the middle of the sternum. Keep the shoulders active. Think about how the hips are responding, especially if you're in class yesterday. Pretty darn hip-centric. And then we'll just keep the hands as is and slide forward. Back into your version of mountain. And for mountain, left foot slides straight back. We land there. Keep that nice, solid finger interlace. And then keeping the hands as is, we'll just slide forward. Push the palms away from you at this same height. So a little bit lower than we'd normally be. There's a little bit of an angle as we extend out here. And then squeeze the shoulders back. Keep the arms at the same angle, but release the hands, palms down. So we have kind of half zombie. And then from here, we're just going to go into a half fold. Little bit of an angle stays with the arms so that we get just a little bit of pinching, hinging at the hips, and then release all the way. Try to let your low back completely settle there. You can release the arms, release that tension, and just settle. We'll plant our hands, walk our way back into down dog. Energize the finger mounds, get the weight back into the hips. Remember that when you transition from forward to back, it can be a little harder. So you may need to bend the knees more than you want to. And then we'll come down to hands and knees tabletop, flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. And as you settle your way into child's pose, just relax back into that breath that you started class with. That nice, fluid, smooth, cycle of breath. And we'll give ourselves just 30 more seconds here, just feeling the depth of this child's pose and cycling through your breath. When it feels appropriate, as it feels appropriate. Pulling ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, think about the balance between the front and back of your body. So the hands and the knee engagement. And then just start to sink back until you feel like the knees take a little bit more of the weight. So, and then left hand just comes off of our mat. Left hand plants, right hand comes off of the mat. Right hand plants, come up onto your fingertips. And then see if you can start to elevate both hands here. Good, strong core engagement. Both hands lift, that little angle down that we worked on in that standing series. And then hands plant, stay back here. So the weight is back in the hips, but curl your toes underneath you. And so it's almost like it's a very athletic leap forward position. But instead of forward, we're just going to roll right back into down dog. Now, spine should end up getting long, but the hamstrings may not fully express themselves. Hamstrings were very compacted there. Get the length and don't worry about that full expression of the hamstrings. Even if it feels like things are shorter, again, than you want them to be, think about the length of the spine. And then let's walk forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Low back relaxes again. You can kind of continue that low back relaxation that we worked up to in that last series. Then we'll drift our awareness to our sacrum and roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae, coming into that mountain pose, finding your way to a strong and solid mountain shape. And then let's bring our hands together, heart center. We'll lift the left knee up to 90 degrees. So we come into a half Karate Kid. And think about holding that knee at hip height and then externally rotating. And so we just take that external rotation and then we're going to just slide right back. And as the left foot lands, just blossom up into crescent. Really trying to take that front of hip, anterior hip space on the left side. And then the hands are going to drop to heart center, and we'll use that movement to help us return to the front of the mat. From the front of the mat, hands at heart center. That right knee is going to come up to our half Karate Kid, keeping it at hip height. We'll just roll that hip open and use that roll to step back, landing in lunge and then expressing crescent. Feeling the front of the right hip, that anterior right hip space as we go. And then dropping the hands to heart center and returning to the front of the mat. Try to relax so that the ilium settle here. So that bony structure of hip bone just feels like it is level. And then we'll take our left knee back up into that half Karate Kid. Same thing, we're gonna roll big and wide. This time we'll step straight back into Warrior Two. Blossoming out, feeling that medial line again, and then settling into that space. Left heel spins up, we'll refind crescent, drop the hands to heart center, and once again, return to mountain. Right knee comes up to your half Karate Kid, hands settle at heart center. Right knee rolls open wide, and we'll use that to slide back, Warrior Two, blossom out. Feel that width, feel that medial line as you expand here, particularly in the back leg, trying to roll that open. Right heel spins up crescent, hands drop, and we return to the front of the mat. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Take yourself all the way into that fold. Let the front of the hips kind of be a reception point. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way into plank. Just that nice, strong plank shape. Slowly, gently, delicately lower yourself down to your belly. Land on your belly here. Hands stay right where they are, underneath the shoulders. Quads are flexed. Forehead stays anchored. Tops of the feet are flipped, so they're pressing into the mat. And then just think about lightening the sensation at your belly. As you breathe, the sensation of your belly lightens. And we'll just hold this for 20 seconds. We'll maintain this for 20 seconds, not holding our breath, right? Don't even want to use that word. We're still freely breathing. Last 10 seconds here. Relax. Slide your hands underneath your forehead and just find a little crocodile pose. And we just breathe. There's this massive river. River so wide, you can't see across it. With a water flow so rapid that no one would dare attempt to cross it. And on the bank of this river, a culture has found itself, thriving in great deal due to the fertile soil that it was founded on. The combination of that fertile soil and human ingenuity, hard work, determination, as well as generations of humans, have built this society into what's something that is truly remarkable. Last 20 seconds here. And when you're ready, let's press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, curl your toes, lift your seat, find your way back into down dog. Elongate the spine, drive that energy back into the hips. Really think about loading from the handprints through the hips, and then see if you can lighten that belly sensation the same way we did when we were on our mat, so that you just offer some space across the trunk, the anterior trunk space. And then let's walk our way forward into fold. From our fold, we'll inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. And then inhale back into half lift. Let your hands slide up your legs here. They can be on the top of the shins or bottom of the quads, but not on the knees. So pick something that feels appropriate for you. And then we're gonna slide our left foot straight back into lunge. As that left foot lands, left hand's gonna extend straight forward. And then left hand's gonna take us into warrior two. Keeping that solid front knee bend, we're headed towards side angle. Right hand's coming down to the medial edge of that right foot. Think about smoothing into that front quad as you lengthen out the shoulder space, and then draw energy along that lateral edge of the left side to pull you back up. Spin that left heel up, we'll find crescent. Put the hands down to the mat, and we'll step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Inhale back into half lift, and once again, set your hands. So the shins or the thighs, whatever feels appropriate, then the right foot sliding back as it lands, right arm extends forward, then right hand carries us up into warrior two. Feel how that left hamstring has to transition with the shape. Smooth into that front quad, and then our left hand is headed down side angle, medial edge of that left foot. Widen out through that shoulder base. Think about crafting width here. Then the right side activates. We'll draw ourselves back into two. Right heel spins up, crescent, hands float to the mat. And we'll step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Settle into your fold space. Find your way all the way into your fold, and just breathe. Awareness drifts to the sacrum. Let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Finding mountain. Bring your hands together at heart center. Eyes closed if it feels comfortable for you. Eventually, we'll let the eyes open. The left knee will come up into that half Karate Kid. Left foot slides straight back. Left heel grounds. Right hip pulls back. Arms extend straight up for warrior one. Float the hands down to the mat and straighten into that front leg, that right leg. Doesn't mean it becomes straight. It just means it straightens in the direction of. Spin your left heel up and step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Roll yourself up vertebrae by vertebrae. Hands come together at heart center. Eyes closed. Re-find the fluidity of your breath in mountain. Think about that ease and flow. Eventually, the eyes can open. We'll lift that right knee. And slide that right foot straight back. Ground your right heel. Sweep straight up, warrior one. Smooth into that front quad. Think about hugging that left hip back, belly button straight forward. Drop the hands down to the mat and slide back into that left hamstring. Think about the arches of the feet so that we're not just, especially the front foot, it's very easy to just let that foot go limp. Stay active in the front foot. Spin the right heel up. We'll step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk ourselves into plank. From plank, slowly, gently, delicately lower yourself down to your belly. Keep your hands right where they are, right underneath that shoulder space. Flex into the quads so the kneecaps are lifted. This time, we'll elevate the forehead, maybe 1/8 of an inch, just breaking contact with the ground, with our mat. And then drift your awareness back to the belly and think about lightening that spot so that each breath and we're continuously and fluidly breathing. Each breath offers more and more lightness in that belly space. And then just relax and slide your hands underneath your forehead for crocodile pose. And just breathe here. And give ourselves about 30 more seconds. When it feels appropriate, we'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, find our way back into down dog. Get that big lift of the hips. Thinking about keeping your hips even, level. Let's slide our right foot straight forward. So straight from down dog, straight forward into lunge. Ground your left heel, bring your right hand to the medial edge, big toe edge of that right foot. Try to line up the arm and leg bones here and then extend your left arm up. for a little side angle. And then left side of the body draws you up into two. And the left hand's going to slide down the left leg. Right hand's going to point straight up. Now, the picture behind me is a little tilted, so it looks like I'm tilting a little bit, but straight up, trust me. Optical illusion aside. And then come back into two. Slide back into your right hamstring. And let's head forward into triangle. Draw yourself up into warrior two. Spin your left heel up into crescent. Put the hands down to the mat. Step the right foot back into down dog. Step the left foot forward into lunge. Right heel grounds. Left hand to your medial edge. Right hand extends up into side angle. Think about lining up the verticalness of the legs and the arm. And then right oblique draws us up into two. We slide straight back. Right hand goes down the backside of the leg. Left hand extends straight up towards the ceiling. Really think about going vertical with that top hand. Come back to two, straighten into your left leg, head into triangle. Come back into two. Spin your right heel up into crescent. Put the hands down to the mat. Step the left foot back into down dog. Think about the amount of length you have here and really drive into that. And then we'll come down to hands and knees, flip the tops of the feet, and sink back into child's pose. Really nice work. There's a deep sequence there. So as you settle into this child's pose, think about how you can adjust to be more receptive to the space you've crafted. Fluid and easy in your breath. When it feels appropriate, we'll pull ourselves forward into hands and knees tabletop. Once again, crafting that strong and solid base, and then shift your hips back to the point where you feel like you can lift the front arms, even if it's one at a time. Settle in and then just start to get light. So maybe you come up onto your fingertips, maybe you extend the arms out, holding some core strength here. Relax, shift forward, and let your legs extend straight out in front of you in the staff. As the legs extend, we're just going to head right into a seated fold. We've done a pretty good job of warming up for this shape. So really allow this seated fold to settle in. We're going to be here for a little bit longer than normal. I know this isn't everybody's favorite shape, but we'll probably could be a long time before we're this open for a seated fold again, especially if you got in on the hips yesterday. And so we're just going to give ourselves 2 minutes here. On the other side of this massive river, there is another society. They have settled in a place, not just the opposite side of the river, but opposite in how fertile the soil is as well. They exist upon what is essentially a massive granite slab. Because of that, coming up with enough resources to feed their population has always been a struggle. They do what they can do. They plant in the cracks in between the granite, anywhere where they can hold soil, they do. And through their hard work and human ingenuity and determination, and through generations of time, they've created a society that is truly amazing. Certainly doesn't have the wealth and resources of the society across the river, but what it does have is all owed to the people that live there. Because these two societies are divided by this massive river, they don't know one another exists. And that remained true until this massive monsoon season. It came and it lasted nearly 60 days, and it rained the entire time. And it filled this massive river with so much additional water that the path of the river itself changed, revealing an ancient bridge that had connected these two banks of the river before and would now connect these two societies presently. Last 30 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, bringing your spine back to vertical and then heading onto your mat. And your spine being greeted by your mat should feel pretty magical. Letting your body just receive this, letting a little bit of time of appreciation settle in for everything you've done thus far. With these two societies now connected, almost as soon as the bridge was revealed, a couple of the leaders from the side of the river with the granite foundation head across the bridge. And when they arrive at the other bank of the river, they are dumbfounded by what they see. This society here is beyond blessed with opportunities they could have never thought of. They look at the soil and they're just dumbfounded by what can grow. When you're right, when you're ready, let's bring our knees into a bent position if they're not already there. And then we'll let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. They see all these things that this society has accomplished with these resources they were granted, and they're just amazed. And at the end of this visit, they invite some of the leaders from this more fertile land over to their side. And when they arrive, they're dumbfounded by what they see. They see a entire society of people that are existing, that have crafted this experience without any of the opportunities they have been granted. You see these people gardening in the cracks of granite and producing just enough to get by. Last 15 seconds here. And when it's appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Pull the thighs in towards your torso and give yourself a nice little hip squeeze here. You can move the knees and kind of play with that proximal femoral head in the hip socket. Maybe noticing some significant additional mobility. And then we're going to take the hands to like just below the knees to the shins and pull those legs as wide as you can get them. Really trying to open up that medial line. Keeping the knees as high as they'll go helps to find even more space. And then we'll release the feet back down to the mat and just let the knees rock a little side to side. Nice work. Note the area around the hips here, the trunk space as you move and how that feels. Hopefully feeling into a little bit of extra room and mobility there. And then the next time the knees fall over towards the left, let's let them settle for a little static twist. And we'll just be at ease in this static twist. Just settling into each cycle of breath in a way that is the most supportive for you. Last 30 seconds here. And then when it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Maybe find your way back to a balanced sacrum, and then we'll let the knees fall over to the second side. It's not long after this society, who's built their existence upon this granite slab, learns of these fertile soils across the river, that people start picking up, walking across the bridge, and attempting to settle in this fertile land, looking to take the skills that they've learned, the hardships of limited resources, and find opportunity. And it's not long after that that the elders of this fertile land call a meeting. They have a democratized society. And there are tensions brewing with all this influx of people. People have very different opinions on whether it's good or bad. When you're right, when you're ready, when you feel balanced, we'll bring the knees back to neutral. Let your awareness drift within. Ask yourself if there's anything you might want, need, or especially if there's anything that you might benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. If you have everything you need, you're ready to find some stillness. Let's find a shape where we can appreciate some stillness. And so everyone in this society is invited and encouraged to give a public statement. And so they all line up and they all offer their thoughts on the fact that these people from across the river are moving into their society. Some people think it'll be great, provide more opportunity, and some people think it'll be terrible and it'll take the opportunity away from people. But one by one, they share their perspective, and the Council of Elders listens. Just settling into your version of Shavasana. After hearing everyone offer their perspectives, the head elder gets up with a decision. Says, we've always trusted the river to provide for us as it washed our fertile soil onto the banks. We'll start to bring some movement into our fingers and our toes. Into our wrists and our ankles. The river has always provided us good fortune. Movement into your elbows and your knees, shoulders and hips, neck and head. Eventually, the entirety of the body starts to move and explore the space around you. And eventually, we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are in. We'll return to a seat. And so it kind of continues on with trusting the river and the change that the river has created. Revealing a bridge that isn't new, but an artifact of the past. And redrawing the lines that these two cultures are based upon. With our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together at heart center. Let your eyes close and let your breath get nice and fluid. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you give yourself the opportunity to appreciate how lucky we are to have been born on one side of a line? Because in another experience, through no fault of our own, we could have been born on the other. And see how that impacts you. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Monday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you being here. Nice to have so many of you here on a Monday. Have a beautiful rest of your week. I'll be back on Sunday to recharge, and we'll do this thing again next Monday. Love the heck out of you. Bye.